Hey, you like cars? Yes, we are back again. Welcome. You already know what time it is. It's your favorite time, but let's make it official, okay? Let's make sure you know where you're at. That is the CarQuicks Podcast, episode 76. It is your wonderful host, Cameron Biggs, back with another, back again, but more importantly, I'm back with y'all. So, how are you doing? How are your friends, family, loved ones, significant others? How's the holiday treating you? The traffic in every city is probably certifiably insane because out here, Houston, Katy, Brookshire area, ridiculous. Okay, just ridiculous. So I've just been in the house. Went to a couple car meets. I was at a Catalina Coffee. I go every Sunday. It's a good time. It's good people. You get really good conversation with owners of cars that you just don't see all the time. You get more of a personal up close. That's why I like going to that event. But I'm not here to talk about that. We'll kind of circle about things going on in my own car world after the podcast. So let's just drive right in. What do we got to talk about? Here's a funny story. And something I didn't even know was possible in this upper echelon of price range. So, if you didn't know, a Bugatti Chiron is like $4 million. Maybe if you add the options, it probably can get up to 5. Maybe let's just say baseline's at 3, but when you add the options, you're going to end up at $4 million for one car. Did you know that there are no cup holders in a Bugatti Chiron? I didn't even think about this because not that I was looking at a Bugatti Chiron like our Toyota Sienna with, 900, cup holders inside of it. But I was expecting at least one somewhere. Supercars have always been inconvenient for daily life, even though they tout them as daily drivers. If you think about Lamborghinis and Ferraris, their cup holder situation has always been laughable. It's been a little plastic tray piece probably sticking out the dash. McLaren had some option where you can stick a little clip somewhere to hold maybe a water bottle. Nothing realistic. It's definitely not holding none of them Stanley cups. It ain't holding the venti of anything from Starbucks. So there's a woman in San Antonio who is the CEO of a healthcare staffing company. Her name was Shannon Ralston. And I feel like I have seen videos or pictures on Instagram of people either talking to this person or talking to this woman and seeing her at a gas station and saying like, this is amazing. You drive your Bugatti. She's been around. I've seen videos of it. I've seen pictures. If I'm thinking about the same person, I can't imagine there's too many women-owned Bugatti Chirons in San Antonio area. But anyways, she commissioned Bugatti to develop a cup holder for her car because she's in it all the time and there was no cup holders. So she got the director of design, Frank Heel, Heyl, to literally CAD design an entire prototype that they, in the article, are going to ship to her to test out to have a solution for the car. But the funny thing is, I can't believe we're here. A $4 million hypercar, not even supercar, is unequipped with a cup holder? At this, I would have just went to like Target or Walmart and got the little door clip cup holder and been like, hey, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But she got them to commission design a new cup holder for a car, which I find it so funny that at that level, like they didn't even figure out a way to hide one around. I know Bugatti's very big on timeless design on the interior, so you don't see any screens, you don't see anything that's like kind of in your way. I wonder if the new Tourbillon has cup holders too. I probably they threw them in. I just didn't realize it because they probably thought about this and said, "Listen, next time let's figure out a way to throw in some cup holders." So, if you wanted to know whether your car had a leg up on a Bugatti owner, just show them your cup holders. I'm going to pull up to them in the GR Corolla and say, I got something you don't have. And they're going to be like, what could that possibly be in my cup holders? Convenience. That's what I got. Things that are sustainable, things that help my daily life and commute is a cup holder. Simple thing, but you don't got it. and you spend $4 million, which is what makes this whole entire story funny. But getting on to more real news on the car world. So Dodge is they're just overall in a very interesting state. The reviews for the Charger came, I'm not going to lie, they came and they went. I went on the forums. There are a few people that are like, hey, I'm excited for it because I already knew what the electric Charger was going to be, and I kind of like what they're doing. But the overall consensus of the videos I talked about my last podcast, I went to go watch them again, and it's very much just a decent sports electric car, but not an overly engaging one. I think it just turned into like it's fairly quick. It looks cool on the outside. We already know the name, but it doesn't really, and I don't think it really pushes forward the lineage of a muscle car that Dodge may have been touting in their articles or in their advertising for the car. Case in point, we found out that it can't do a burnout. Now, I'm not saying a burnout is a burnout is not a testing point for a car to say if it's good or not. But a muscle car, and where it comes from in its history and its lineage, it sounds like a very childish antic of a burnout. But it just plays into that storyline. So the fact that a Charger, with all the torque in the world instantaneously in an electric vehicle, can't actually spin his wheels freely to produce some smoke, it's kind of funny because their advertising for the electric Charger has always been about part of the muscle car brotherhood, always about bringing in what we did before, but tapping into something new for the future. It's just a funny thing. And it kind of plays into a role of what I was reading when I was listening to reading articles, listening to videos, watching them. And most of the even podcasts I listened to, they were just like, listen, it can be fast because it's an electric. And I think that's the Achilles heel of electric cars, that they can be fast because instant torque, instant power, they're fast cars. But that doesn't actually create engagement or drivers to remember what they're driving or engage with the car. So you got a little bit of that problem. But back to what I was really trying to talk about. Dodge is extending the HEMI V8 engines inside of the Durango. They were supposed to end December 31st, the end of this month. They were supposed to no longer cease to develop HEMI V8s. Of course, they got major backlash. They got owners calling them, they got current Charger and Hellcat owners holding on for dear life to their cars, never to give them up again, because the ship has sailed on the last line of the Dodge Charger 4-doors and the Challengers and all that, Red Eyes and Hellcats, all that is gone. So now you got owners of Durangos basically understanding that, oh, we're about to be out of there too. There is no big V8 SUV that's in this price range unless you're talking Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and you're getting into the very high range of $70,000 to $100,000 SUVs. They're looking at the Durango like this is the last of getting this motor inside of a vehicle from Dodge. And so they complained, they petitioned, and Dodge is like, we're going to extend this coverage of the V8 into 2025. Now, does it go to 2026? Are they saying for a couple months for the Q1? Are we talking about Q4? Whatever it is, it rides right in line with another article I read that was talking about Dodge refusing to answer if the HEMI can fit inside of the chassis of the new Charger. Now, if I look at pictures of it, everybody online, or a few people online at least I've read, have said from visual inspection of the front area of an electric Charger, it can fit a V8. It can fit a HEMI. Now, I know Dodge is never going to announce that it can, because the moment they say that it can, or the moment they hint that, like, hey, possibly if we kind of moved a couple things, it could squeeze in there, all the fans, everybody online is going to say, then why didn't you do it? And that's the main fight that they have right now. Their fight is to convince the masses that they are going down the right path. I've said it already before. There is a ICE version of the Charger coming, has a Hurricane inline 6 twin turbo motor. I do think that's going to be exciting. I've said it time and time again. We will see when that shows up. But they're increasing that coverage. They're now going further. They also have the old CEO. I forget, his name is Tim. I can't pronounce the last name. In replace of Carlos, that resigned over the Thanksgiving weekend. They now have the previous CEO that stepped down. He didn't resign. Well, I guess you could say resign, but he resigned on good terms. Like, I want to go back, spend time with my family, enjoy the rest of my life. I did what it did. Okay, I brought y'all back to relevance. And they had to bring him back to save them from being irrelevant in the field that they created. And I think seeing that HEMI V8 extending its production is yet another kind of tick in that direction when people say they're going to circle back around to this HEMI V8. They're going to figure out a way to make it emission compliant, and they're going to come back around because it should have never left from here. And I said it in my last podcast too, that their trajectory was going up. I didn't really see a dip. The memes and the jokes about Chargers and people that buy them have high APRs and bad credit scores and grew up bad. Like, that's a kick, just like beating a dead horse. It's a meme that goes around. I think the meme is kind of like, I don't really abide by it because I'm like, what other vehicle could possibly replace a big V8 car that's fast? So I don't even get how that could be knocked now. Now, I know there's a bunch of Chargers and Challengers under the tier of a Hellcat or a Scat Pack, but regardless of the few people and the shenanigans that kind of go on with Chargers and Challengers in the streets, in general, that vehicle hasn't been made by another manufacturer in that capacity for that long across that many iterations. I do think that there is a place for it. So the HEMI V8's still going to go strong in the Durango. So I don't know if the Durango Hellcat's still around, but if they're making a HEMI V8 inside of it, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to still make the Hellcat version of it, or at least try to give you some high output version that you want to drive around with the family. And speaking about high output, let's talk about something that's, I can't wait for them to test this car. Can't wait, especially against the likes of some other vehicles that we got coming out, and that's the Chevrolet C8 ZR1. So everyone's waiting for the official test Nürburgring. We just had Ford at the Mustang GTD get under 7 minutes. It was like 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Way under on the power when it comes to ZR1, but maybe Ford, when it comes to their suspension tuning, they may have done better than what Chevrolet is going to do to ZR1. We don't know yet. So people are waiting for the Nürburgring or the lap times. They want to see the ZR1 up against hypercars and supercars 3, 4, 5 times its price tag to see what this thing can do. This is David versus Goliath. It's the story we love. It's the American supercar. I'm excited for it. So some of the numbers trickled in last week. 0 to 60, 2.3 seconds. Now, I've said it before, not to say I haven't. I've talked about 0 to 60 really not being the end-all, be-all when it comes to performance cars. There are other metrics that you should understand and should be excited about. Track time, driver dynamics, suspension, driver feel, all those things that they talk about in articles. Those things matter when you're talking about a performance car, a driver's car. But for the sake of the ZR1 and what it's up against in that realm of 0 to 60 times, let's give you a little snippet of what it's up against and what it's doing. A McLaren W1 does it in 2.7 seconds. That car isn't out yet as far as the public goes, but the stats and the information already came out from McLaren. The Ferrari F80, the brand new F80, does it in 2.1 seconds. Our Lamborghini Revuelto does it in 2.5 seconds. Do you see the area in the arena that the ZR1 is playing in? The cheapest car in that whole entire lineup was a Lamborghini, which is about like $600,000. And everything else is $2.5 to $3 million, $4 million, depending on options. The ZR1 most likely is going to be either under $200,000 or just at bargain central. Okay, that is crazy. We already saw the top speeds over 230 miles an hour. Quarter mile in 9.6 seconds at 150 miles an hour. That trap speed tells you this thing is moving at the end of that quarter mile. And this is all in a Chevrolet Corvette that you can buy at the dealership. You don't got to own 19 other Ferraris. You don't got to own a bunch of McLarens. You didn't have to, sell a child to get one. Not that you still don't have to. I mean, it's $200,000. I don't got that. It's still a lot of money. But what I'm saying is we're talking about a car that you will see fairly regularly. I'm sure I will see a ZR1 at Catalina Coffee, Cars and Coffee, rolling down the street. When they come out, you're going to see a lot of them. 06 owners, you're going to see people that have been waiting for them. I'm excited to just see what this car is going to do. especially like I said, last podcast I talked about the Valhalla, and I said, I hope that we get the Valhalla F80 W1 Lamborghini, all of it, ZR1, the full package on a track, VIR, not Nürburgring, because they're not about to rent that whole thing out, but get an American track and let's get it cracking and see what these cars can do. I hope we get that happening. I really do. So Chevrolet is trickling out the information. They haven't talked about a Nürburgring lap time. I would be highly surprised if they did not go there. And then on top of that, there is one other car coming behind it, and that's the Zora. And the Zora is basically like how the E-Ray is a Z06-ish type of power plant. Not the same engine. It's not the same motor, but power-wise, it's right in the same realm, but with hybrid assistance. The ZR1 is twin turbocharged. They're going to add hybrid assistance on top of that for the Zora. Talking about the horsepower is going to jump up to like 1,200 plus. Wild. Okay? Absolutely wild. So, the future for Chevrolet and the C8 and the ZR1, especially considering what they're aiming for and what they're doing, is very, very bright. That's in direct contrast to the likes of what Dodge is floundering over there, having just, with their old CEO, just not saw the line that they should have taken, the future of what they're doing. I mean, we don't even have the Dodge Viper anymore. I mean, come on. The ACR was a monster. That should have still been developed. We might have had a brand new V10 one, and they would have been talking about the ACR twin turbo, whatever it may have been at this time against the ZR1, and we would have had full American fight. Ford made the GT at least. I mean, I know that's a very expensive supercar, but they still produced that, and they made a GTD that cost over $300,000. And somehow Dodge couldn't find a business plan for a new Viper. I mean, come on. At the very least, we could have at least had that going there. So Chevrolet is on a run with the C8. They're getting a lot of publicity with the ZR1. I do think, if I'm just going to throw out this little thing that I think they should do, they stopped making the Camaro. The Camaro sales are kind of just going down, and I think the Camaro just kind of got stagnant as far as what they were doing. Not that the ZL1 isn't a very cool Camaro, but I do think with the excitement they got around the C8 that they've been having, the ZR1, the Z06, I do think it's the perfect time to introduce or reintroduce the next generation of what a Camaro could be. Take the things they've learned, look at the mistakes their competitors have been making. Don't let Ford and the Mustang be the only thing that's alive and well. I think they can have a really good chance to really just spice it up. Brand new design, new V8s, just really do it well. So I don't know if Chevrolet's ever listened to this podcast, but hey, if there's ever a time to strike while the iron is hot on the heels of ZR1 and Zora, drop a new Camaro. Now, moving on to something else. I'm going back to not Dodge, but I'm going back to Stellantis. So we know that in this EV era right now, we are in the midst of a lot of decisions having been made in rooms that didn't have all of the brightest thinkers, meaning folks jumped out the window when it came to EVs and said, we're doing everything EV. We're getting rid of our whole lineup, the whole thing, all the gas cars, get them out of here. EV only. That really didn't work out that well. If you look at the news, if you look at what every manufacturer is doing right now, all of them are backtracking or backpedaling a little bit more about their EV lineup and when it's coming out or what it's doing. Case in point. So Ram trucks back in 2023, which is crazy, it's about to be 2025. Like, your time is flying. But they announced the Ram Charger and the Ram Rev. The Ram Charger was an 3.6 liter V6 that was charging an electric motor and battery system that got up to 690 miles of range, which is impressive. And then the Ram Rev was a full electric pickup truck with a crazy 229 kilowatt battery system that got 500 miles of range, or up to 500 miles of range, fully electric. Each of those have been pushed back. The Ram Charger was supposed to happen like literally the end of Q 2024, like right now in this month. They said now it's going to Q1 2025. It's still coming out. It's got pushed to next year. The Ram Rev has now been pushed back as far as 2026. Now, we don't know if that's December 2025, 2026 model, or is it year 2026 in the spring or the fall of 2026. Either way, this is showing you that every single decision made on EVs, and especially with Stellantis Group, they're having such a hard time and bad time when it comes to sales and dealerships being mad, CEOs changing, the entire morale of the company feeling like we have lost our momentum. So they're readjusting everything they're doing. But that theme isn't just unique with them. Many companies are changing out their entire EV plan, and more of them. They're not the only ones. I'm going to jump to something else I was going to talk about later. But Nissan, Honda, and Mitsubishi have been in the news talking about a merger. Really, it was Nissan and Honda talking first, and somehow Mitsubishi got thrown in there. And I think it's because, like, I don't even know how Mitsubishi's still alive, but they're around. They even made an updated to their Outlander, doing a little Yamaha audio system. Probably sounds good too. But they're talking about a merge because they want to come together to facilitate some partnership that involves EVs. It does make sense when it comes to them in that group. Collaborate, distribute the costs, make something compelling. What does the cars look like? I don't know, because Mitsubishi doesn't make anything that's at the realm of the reliability or quality that Honda's making right now. Nissan doesn't really design like Honda's. None of them are equal when it comes to what they do. So either they're just sharing the underpinnings, like chassis, motor, battery, charging system. That makes sense. That's kind of like the four core things, because you don't have to worry about unique motors and engines like you do in ICE power cars. So if we just got the same engine, we can tweak our little ECU in the way we want the driving dynamics to come on, like the torque delivery, the power delivery. But the core things of like engine, motor, chassis, brake, charging, all that can be shared. And then we just design cars around it. That kind of makes sense. Like Honda showed off back in CES of last year, those crazy looking wedge design Honda concept cars. And they actually have some new ones coming in the next CES in January too. Now, all these were like, I think it was called Concept Zero, Concept One. None of them are realistic to production vehicles, even though I would just like to see them because it's very Blade Runner-ish. And I was like, hey, listen, let's do it. But the point of it is they're clearly trying to figure out a way to share manufacturing and carry the weight across three companies so that everyone can benefit and kind of still do their own thing. That's what I read, and that's what I suspect. Now, the merger on the other end, when it comes to car enthusiasts like myself, we're kind of hoping that maybe this meant that you can get another Evo. Maybe we can get a better Nissan Z. Maybe a Honda S2000 is coming back. But I don't think any of that has to do with anything. But I do see that them talking together is the companies realizing that they have to kind of take it slow. Chinese companies like BYD are definitely a catalyst for all these companies coming together to try to figure out something. They mentioned it themselves. They said BYD is one of the biggest threats. Elon Musk said it for the US. Now, I've been in a BYD car in Mexico, and I understand why. For the price point they were talking for the cars that I was in at their dealership, I was like, I can't knock any of this. I don't care about the whole it's made in China, all these things, right? Forget all that. We're talking about a car. The SUV and the cars by themselves are solid, okay? Definitely, if they came here, no tariffs involved, yes, that would be a very big problem for Tesla. It'd be a problem for every car manufacturer here because they're undercutting everybody with the same level of quality and much higher features. I'm not saying features dictate a good car, because you can wow and pizzazz people into thinking that this razzle dazzle of screens rotating and heated, cool massaging seats and 15 million speaker stereo systems mean that I'm in some luxury quality car, when in reality, the underpinnings could be falling apart as fast as you can press buttons on the screen. So it doesn't mean that they're making much better cars, but competition is what kind of fuels that. And if the competition is coming under you, you got a hard battle to fight starting right there at the price point. So Nissan, Honda, they're talking. Mitsubishi somewhere in the mix, trying to figure out where they get in, where they fit in. And then you have Ram and Stellantis and everybody shuffling and moving around their EV plans. And another company did the same thing. That was the Lexus. So Lexus showed off some concepts back in 2023. They were called the Lexus LV. They're called the Lexus LF ZC and the Lexus LF ZL. Wait, hold on. I want everyone who's in those think tank rooms to either call me or call somebody else, because we need better names. These names sound like PC parts at Micro Center. The Asus ROG LZFC. What is an LFZC? These names, like, I know they got away with the IS, LS400, IS300. You know, I get it. They've been using letters for a while, but the Lexus LF ZL? Come on, dog. We got to do better. We have to. Anyways, their entire EV lineup has been pushed back to 2027. Now, Toyota has been very not casual. They've been very conservative with their EV introduction. Much to the dismay of some articles I read from magazine automotive publications, like Toyota's taking too long. They should have been made something. People on the forums like they should have been had an all-electric Sienna and an all-electric Camry. And now everybody's like, oh, I see why they did hybrids, because it makes more sense right now. And so, in lieu of that, I think that their Lexus delay is part of that plan with them saying dial it back. We just watched every other company from Porsche down to Dodge say, hey, we're going to ease up on that EV thing. We're going to change it up a bit. Perfect time to also dial back and just hide in the back and say, let's see what they do. Let's see how this plays out. There's a lot of infrastructure things that have to play out in order for EVs to finally make their stamp where it needs to be. Tesla is an outlier because they've been an electric car company from the onset. They don't have gas-powered cars that they have to figure out how to move a fan base from a Tacoma to an electric Tacoma, from a Honda Civic to an electric Honda Civic. They don't have to worry about that. The Model 3, S, Y, X have always been literally electric cars. So he has an easier battle, and he has the infrastructure for the charging system. So Tesla has the better leg up on all these manufacturers when it comes to how EVs are introduced to their fan base, and there are people that are buying into the cars. So that delay is smart, honestly. I know it's not something people want to hear. They don't want to say like, oh, great, now we're delaying something for the future. And you'll get the proponents online that say this is the future. The longer we delay it, the longer we don't get to that point. And I know I'm talking from a car enthusiast standpoint as well, too. So we kind of get into the mix, like with the BMW M3 and the electric version they're making. We kind of get into the mix because we're talking about performance driver cars, and the people that are proponents of EVs are most are talking about commodity cars every day, point A to B. So it's the mix gets mixed up. The waters get muddy because the opinions kind of get mixed up with what you are desiring and what it is that we might see for the future. And I don't think that an electric car is absolutely the answer. There's always a consequence. There's pros and cons across the board with either one of them. We're not just going to start making only EVs and somehow some part of the environment isn't affected. Can't just be mining minerals out of the earth forever and ever. And we're just like, cool, we figured it. We got it. No consequence. It just doesn't work like that. So there will be something. Don't know what it is now, but if we flip this coin and it was all electric cars to gasoline ones, there would be something we'd be talking about. Absolutely. Now, speaking about another car that I have actually switched my opinion on as far as my excitement, because I had to sit back and think about, the truth of what this car is and my own opinion, even my own bias on what I would want to what it is and how it can be beneficial. And that's the Honda Prelude. So it's official. Honda Prelude's out. I don't mean out like you can buy it. Honda Japan released a whole video driving impressions of the car. It looks dead on like the concept production car we saw. And we say concept production when a concept car is basically 95% production and maybe a small little area that you just don't even realize might be tweaked for production. So the Prelude looks just like I've shown you. You see the picture back on the screen again. And I liked how it looked. I was like, I like how the Prelude looks. It has elements that are kind of Porsche, other things that can maybe lend it to be a little bit kind of generic in design and not so defined, but I still like it overall. It looks very good as a coupe. But we know now that this is a sports hybrid coupe. And sports hybrid doesn't mean like the hybrid system they put in a Ferrari F80 or what they're going to do in a Chevrolet Zora, the C8 Zora. We're not talking about a high performance hybrid system that are only there to just inject a 200 more horsepower like that and charge up a battery real quick. This is truly a hybrid car because it uses a powertrain from the Civic Hybrid. However, if you remember a few podcasts ago, I talked about the Civic Hybrid and I said, this powertrain, 200 horsepower, 232 foot-pounds of torque, was basically matching a Civic Si, if not better, because it had more torque. And I was like, that's crazy. Because the Civic Si is supposed to be the upper echelon performance one, which it is still because it's more driver focused when it comes to how the engine revs and the shifter and the 6-speed manual and the limited slip differential and the way the suspension is tuned. There's a lot more things going on in the Civic Si that lend it to being a sporty little sedan than I would say just a Civic hybrid. Now, if you take the Civic hybrid powertrain, drivetrain and all, and dump it inside of a coupe that is tuned like an SI when it comes to suspension, performance, and being sporty, now we got something kind of interesting. There is no 6-speed manual. A couple podcasts ago, again, we talked about that, saying, hey, there could be a possibility. But then an article from The Drive came out, I think it was The Drive, and they broke down basically like, that's not possible because the CRZ is what they're basing this on, and they never had a manual in the hybrid system. And in order to introduce manual transmission in the hybrid would be a monumental task that they're not about to do right now. So it made sense. I was like, you know what? Thinking about that, that makes perfect sense. It's going to be a CVT. Now, they did do a little something. The CVT on this is being developed what they call an S plus shift, which is a more sporty version of the shifting of the CVT, specifically in the Prelude, to help bring in that sporty vibe of it, that sportiness of the driving and connecting with the driver. But if you think about the performance and the power, 200 horsepower, 232 foot-pounds of torque. Now, let me take you over to Toyota real quick. The Toyota Prius has been modified as far as you want to go with numerous companies. I showed you at the SEMA show, they had the wide-body kit from, I forgot the name of that company. But anyways, they had the wide body kit for it. You've seen Saibon had front lips and carbon fiber wings and splitters and diffusers. You have seen modified Priuses all day long. There's even a Prius cup, like a GR cup for racing them. Here's what I'm trying to say. If we're modifying Priuses to look like this wide body craziness, if we're modifying them with front lips and splitters and lowering them, and this is a common thing, especially in Japan culture, even in the US as well. If we've been modifying these hybrid cars to just sip gas and go from point A to B, if the Prelude now is a hybrid that can still get 30 to 40 miles per gallon, it can cruise and sip on gas, but still, if you punch it, introduce more torque than a Prius has, about basically the same horsepower as the Prius Prime, but it looks as this looks, which is a cool looking, dope looking coupe, then there is a market for this. Absolutely. Because if I was looking for something to get me from point A to B, I didn't care about a GR Corolla. I don't want a Civic Type R. I don't want a Type S. I'm not trying to roll through the gears. I don't care about high revving. I want to have my gas mileage. I want to look cool. And when I step on it to merge, I want a little sporty action here and there. I don't want to have to roll through my own gears. This is actually a perfect combination. And I had to think about this after the fact. Like after it was announced, I was like, you know what? I'm approaching this like an old Prelude with the H22 and the VTEC and manual and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, there's a market for just, I want to look cool, give me a little bit of power, but I do not want to have to worry about the power range of like a GR Corolla or anything like that. Or I don't want to have to worry about what a Type S is doing or a Type R is doing. So take the idea of modifying fun hybrid cars, apply that to this Prelude. I'm pretty confident in saying that the aftermarket for the Prelude is about to blow up. Approach this like if you wanted something that looked dope, looked cool, but you still got good gas mileage, still had a little bit of power when you wanted it. I'm pretty confident that the aftermarket is really gonna respond well to the Prelude. Like when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? If we're making wide body kits for Priuses, then almost surely they're going to do it for like a Prelude. If we got front lips and diffusers and things for a Prius and other small efficient cars, they're going to do it for a Prelude, especially with how this looks. Especially with the fact that they're going to tune the chassis, and they've already talked about it, that it will have some handliness, sportiness to it. It won't just be a dud. No, it's not going to chase down a Civic Type R that was developed on the track. But for everything else, for everyone underneath a Civic Type R that wants something more than a Civic, that maybe wants more than an SI, Maybe they look at the SI and they're like, that's cool. I don't need four doors. I want something that looks cooler. Then you have the Prelude. What will the aftermarket do with the motor? I think you can still do a lot. Yes, it has hybrid powertrain part of it, but it still has a standard motor in it. And I think we may be surprised about what they do and how people respond to it. And if you take this car, lower this, wheels, and all the things that we like to do when we're modifying cars, this will look really dope amongst the lineup. And I'm always a proponent of anything that introduces more sporty-ish cars, two-door coupes, and things like that, because we need more fun cars. It doesn't always have to be fun at the upper echelon of horsepower and capability. Fun could very well be that guy with the Prelude saying, hey, I'm just here to look good and I got a little pep in my step. So I'm excited to see what that introduces and when it finally comes here. And I would like to drive one too. I'm gonna try to figure out a way. Like I said, inching my way there. Some other news came about that. I'm making my way there. I'm just telling you, I'm making my way there. Now, to wrap this up, GR Corolla updates. Don't have any right now because I didn't really do nothing on the car. I do have something I am going to shoot for the car, and that's just more of a video idea I have when it comes to the idea of the ownership and what I've been modifying, what I've been doing, and to kind of give new owners who got the 2025 model ideas of what they can do in a very simplified way. There's a world where we're going to dive in deeper, and I'm hoping to collaborate with another company where I take on a fairly intense idea on my car that will involve taking apart the motor. And once I get there, I want to introduce another series to that video that kind of talks about the larger modifications, the bigger things. And speaking about GRs and Corollas in general, good friend of mine, David Lee, and if he listens to this podcast, he does. We were out today at Catalina, and we had an idea, and it involves a podcast that kind of centers around GR Corollas. And the reason why is because he is like me, where I love this car and this platform, and I think there needs to be more on it. Like, I know we have parts, I know we have aftermarket support. I just think it needs to accelerate. Like, take Aero, for instance. The amount of body kits and front lifts we have is really, like, we have enough front lifts that look the same that I do not want anybody else to make another front splitter for the GR Corolla. Like, please. Like, I seen them. We did it. We did it. Okay. I would like to just see some other ideas, but I also think that there is a lane for us to kind of speak about the car, our experience, why we love it, the things we want to see, and try to align ourselves with these companies to say there is a big market for them. We're buying a lot of them, especially in the U.S. The U.S. didn't get a GR Yaris. The GR Corolla was made alongside of it, but the GR Corolla is what we got. But I think that our market here, there is a lot of potential and a lot of untapped potential as well. So that's an idea we have that I'm going to execute, because I literally thought about this before. And when he told me this, like, yeah, we should do a podcast about GR Corolla only and our experiences and get people we know and friends. And I was like, what? I've literally thought about this in my head. It has to happen now. Now, when is it going to execute? When is it going to happen? What is it called? I don't know yet. There's logistics to get involved. Where do you shoot it? Do we do it here? Do I do it at his house? I don't know yet. It's going to happen now because it was spoken to me and I had already been thinking about it. So it's go time now. Speaking about something else, the Houston Auto Show is coming up. I will be back there again with the media pass. You'll probably see it floating behind me somewhere if you're looking at the camera. I'll be back there again. I am excited. They got more manufacturers this year. BMW's coming back. Infinity's back. There's a few others that they've been confirming on their website or their Instagram page. And I even commented and said, thank you. It's exciting to see these manufacturers back, because if you've seen videos of mine on Instagram, on CarQuicks, in case you haven't followed me, go on CarQuicks Instagram and follow your boy. But I've posted videos of like Catalina Coffee and Cars and Coffee and other little car meets. And I told to the people that run the Houston Auto Show, we got the biggest automotive community in the country. Our car show should be the biggest one in the country, considering how many people keep moving to Texas, especially to the Houston area and the surrounding areas. How many cars are on the road every single day? We got cars on top of cars. our auto show should be a premier one. And I like to see the effort going into making that happen, because I talked to some of the people that did it last year and they said, yes, we're working towards it and we agree with what you're saying. So I'm excited to see that. I'll be shooting another video series on that, doing another podcast on it, and enjoying my time. And then I got other videos that are coming in place that kind of talk more about the ownership of the GR Corolla. Not that I don't already have those, because I do. I have it when it comes to the mileage at 30,000 miles. I was going to wait till 50. I'm above 40 now, so I may just throw it in there just to kind of give an update on what's going on. I might tie it into the modifications I've done on the car and how I've been handling them since I've been driving the car everywhere. I've done road trips. I've been back and forth when I was working and things like that. Now I work, so I don't have to drive it, commute every day anymore. But I still want to talk about how it has been during this tenure for this past 2 years. And it's been very, very good. No problems, no complaints. And the podcast will continue. Like I said, this is not stopping. I'm not stopping doing this. And I can't wait for next year and what more I got to do. This isn't the last podcast of this year. So I still got another one in the... Do I? Wait, what date is it? The 22nd? Oh, no, I got another one in the chambers. I'm going to do a little New Year's, end of the year, kind of a wrap-up series. Just kind of talking. It might not be any news, just me talking about what I've enjoyed during my time with the YouTube channel, with the podcast, with the car, with the companies I've been working with, and just kind of what I've enjoyed and what I've been able to discover and experience this year alone, and what I'm looking forward to next year. So that'll come. That'll be the last one of the year. But until then, I always say, do as you wish and do as you may. Thanks again for joining the CarQuicks Podcast, episode 76. It was Cameron Biggs, your host. I'll see y'all around. Peace.